If you're looking for a small, sporty SUV with a lot of personality, then you may want to consider this 2019 Toyota CHR. In today's video, I'm going to walk you around everything you need to know about this model, as well as the other trim levels, which range from around $20,000 to $26,000 as the base MSRP. I'm going to walk you around not only the exterior and the interior features and options, but also the powertrain and performance specs. So let's get right into the video. In regards to the exterior design of this 2019 CHR, I personally think this is one of those cars that you're either going to love or you're going to hate. It's a very polarizing, controversial design, and personally for me, when it first came out, I hated it. But coming here to the Toyota dealership and spending a little bit of time with it and poking around a bit, I've actually come to appreciate its personality a little bit more. But I'm just gonna walk around and show you some of the different features so you can decide for yourself what you think of it. Now the front end to me is very reminiscent of the old Scion brand that Toyota used to have, or even the older RAV4s, which is a little bit smaller and more scrunched up. I'm a big fan of the LED daytime running lamps that come as standard on the front end. And again, they're kind of accented with these bright chrome pieces that swoop throughout. Very nice design with the headlamps, pretty similar to what you'd find in a RAV4 as well. What I'm not a big fan of up here are all the different plastics they use. So I'm noticing that there is a ton of this matte black plastic on the front end. Even here with these side vents, they are non-functional. It's just a big plastic piece. I feel like they went a little bit overboard with it, and I'm not a huge fan. Same thing goes with all the gloss black, especially with this enormous Toyota badge. Now, people have been telling me that they put the gloss black on the front of the car to hide some different sensors in it associated with the safety systems and the parking sensors and all of that, but I feel like it doesn't look quite as clean as it could up here. Moving along to the side of the car, I'm a much bigger fan of the design elements over here than in the front. It's available with either 17 or 18-inch wheels. This particular model is a lower trim level, so it comes with the standard 17-inch steel wheels. They also offer some alloy gloss black sport wheels that I personally feel look a lot better on the side of this car. They also offer some other gloss black features, such as the roof. You can have this in a gloss black material, which is really going to match the floating roof line we've got back here. I think that looks a lot better as well, so personally I would go with the gloss black roof, the gloss black wheels, and I think that would really make the side of this car look a lot smoother than here on this base trim level. But even here, it does look pretty aggressive. I love the way the fenders kind of swoop around. You've got all these super aggressive mud guards on the side here. Again, the same kind of dull plastic material you have in the front, but on the side here, at least they serve a purpose, protecting your paint from rock chips and things like that. Now, one thing I'm not a big fan of here on the side of the car has to be this door handle. It's a very unique design. It's designed to make the car look more like a coupe because you don't have a big obvious door handle down here. It looks pretty good, but the only downside is going to be in the function of it. It's at least 5 feet up off the ground, so if you have some shorter children who need to get in the rear seats of the car, that's going to be a lot harder for them to access. So that could be a downside of it. But then moving along to the rear of the car, things do brighten up a bit. Again, big fan of the design. They've got really unique taillights going on back there. A lot more of that matte plastic material I'm not a fan of. But for me, the one redeeming feature on this car that I think is just so beautiful and perfect has to be the double spoiler setup. Now, spoilers or wings are put on exotic sports cars and things like that to help increase the downforce of the car and push the rear wheels onto the tarmac and give you more grip. Here on the CHR, they've added them, but just as a styling feature. But I still love the design of this main, vortex style spoiler up in the rear of this car. And then they've got a second little lip between the two taillights that really flares out the rear design of this car and makes it look really aggressive, just like the sides and the front. Now, when I review the interior of a car like this, the thing that's most important to me is going to be the materials and the build quality of the car, because the design is very important as well. But I feel like that's something you could really overlook on a daily basis, because remember, when you're out driving, you're not looking at the interior of the car, you're looking out on the road or at your phone, but you can't ever stop feeling it. So you're gonna have your hands on the wheel, hopefully. And yes, it looks nice, it has a nice design, but the materials they used are a little bit lower quality. So it's got a urethane wrap around it, and if you don't know what urethane is, it's basically this rubbery, plasticky type material that a lot of auto manufacturers use because it's cheap and because it looks kind of decent, but it's not very comfortable to hold. And they've also added these gloss black accent pieces along either side. These look okay to me, but again, they don't feel very good. They're a bit cheap, and after time, they're gonna collect fingerprints and dust and not look so good. So the number one most important thing to me is the way the interior feels, and the number one thing that's most important to feel good is the steering wheel. And in the base standard model, they didn't do a great job with it. Now, the good part is, in the upper trim levels, it does get upgraded to a leather-wrapped steering wheel, and I would imagine that would just take the feel of this interior and crank it up to another level of premium. So, you know, you do have options at least. And surprisingly enough, they didn't really skimp out on the materials anywhere else. You still have a leather-trimmed gear selector knob here. Even the boot feels fairly high quality. You've got leather here on this center armrest, which I'm currently sweating all over. And then the seats themselves feature a pretty standard black cloth design, but that's normal for a car that's under $30,000. And it is 6-way, manually adjustable, so it's got a decent design all around. But my favorite materials in this car really come into play with the kind of the cool patterns they used all around the car. And maybe you've noticed some of them already. The most obvious one to me is here on the door trim. It's just plastic, but it's got this cool diamond shaped pattern design to it, and it adds a little bit of personality to the car. And this isn't something you're to be touching that often, so it doesn't matter that it's plastic. But what's really interesting to me is that they took this design and they also added it up on the ceiling of the car. So we've got these 4 little diamond leaf shaped things on the ceiling above your head. And those aren't just there to improve headroom in this car, which is something that's a little bit at a premium in here because of the low sloping roof line. That's not actually functional at all. It's just there to look cool. And it's little details like that that really make me love a car like this. It's just the personality. You've also got this kind of weird pattern even on the speaker covers, and also on the little sill plate. When you get in the car, you're going to be stepping on it. Just really cool attention to detail that, you know, maybe helps me overlook some of the cheaper materials they used. Other features they included in the interior of the CHR include the small 4.2-inch TFT driver display there between the 2 analog style gauges that is actually customizable. So right now it's displaying just a picture of the back of the CHR, which looks pretty cool in my opinion. But you can also change that up to show different driving statistics or things that'll help you when you're out on the road not looking at your phone. And they've also given you a standard 8-inch infotainment touchscreen up on the dashboard with a gloss black trim outline. Again, not a huge fan of that, but it does come standard with Apple CarPlay and Bluetooth connectivity, and you pay extra to have Sirius XM installed as well. Moving along down from some of the screens with more of the physical elements we have in here, we've got a row of buttons for the climate control. I believe it is only a single zone climate control, but again, the buttons are laid out in that cool leaf-like diamond pattern that adds personality to this car. Very cool design there. And then even lower than that, we're going to find again some a little bit lackluster materials because the whole center console area is lined on the inside with a pretty cheap feeling matte black plastic material. But they have included 2 very large cup holders for you and your passenger, and a little bit of a box back here to keep your phone, along with 1 auxiliary jack and a USB port that I believe can be used to charge your phone. But again, that's another area I'm going to complain about. There's only 1 USB port in this entire car. I already checked out the rear seats. We're going to hop back there and talk about it in a minute, but there's no USB ports back there. You're going to find 1 12-volt power outlet in the center armrest box, but throughout the whole car, there's only 1 USB port. And even with a car that only seats 5, I think it would be great to have more than 1. But anyway, that's enough about the front seat and the technology. Let's hop into the back seat and see what the cargo storage and the headroom and legroom looks like. So once again, if you're sitting back here in the rear area of the CHR, you're gonna have to be pretty tall even to get in and to see out the window as well. It's very high up. You don't have a lot of window space back here. So if you're prone to getting car sick or something like that, well, you kind of have to sit like this, which is not entirely comfortable. This is probably the smallest rear window I've seen in a crossover SUV type car like this, which is a little bit disappointing. But once you're inside of it, if you don't care about the windows or anything like that, there is a surprisingly good amount of headroom in here. I'm just over 6 foot. I've got plenty of room up above my head. Legroom is a little bit less, but again, this is a very small SUV, so I wasn't expecting too much to begin with, and this is actually pretty decent. I'm a big fan that they did actually continue the patterned diamond type material back here. A lot of manufacturers cheap out in the rear seats and just put, you know, plain plastic here. I love that they were able to continue the accent pieces. It only cost them a couple extra cents, and it really helps bring up the quality of this interior. The same thing goes for the seats. They've got the same basic pattern and design as the front ones, so they're not the most comfortable in the world, but they're pretty good for what they are. And then finally, the last thing I wanted to mention was the rear trunk area, because cargo space is obviously very important to crossover / SUV buyers. And you'll be happy to find that there is a somewhat good amount of storage in this car. It comes with 19 cubic feet of trunk space. And you can also fold these second row seats down for even more storage area if you need it. Underneath its short hood, you're gonna find that the 2019 CHR is powered by a 2-liter dual overhead cam, 16 valve, 4-cylinder engine that you're gonna find in other cars throughout the Toyota lineup. And it produces 139 pound-feet of torque and 144 horsepower, which is exactly one more than my car. And it's also paired with a continuously variable transmission, or CVT. And a CVT is different from a conventional transmission such as a 7-speed or 8-speed in that it doesn't have a set number of gears. It's continuously variable, which is supposed to make it a lot smoother and faster out on the road. So should you buy a 2019 Toyota CHR? Is it a car that I would personally recommend? Well, as usual, it all depends on your wants and needs and your budget and price range. I think it's got a lot of personality, a decent powertrain, and a really good amount of features on the interior. But again, if you want nicer materials inside, you're gonna have to pay more for the limited trim level. So all things considered, I think it's a really solid offering from Toyota. Definitely a car that I would definitely recommend buying, but you also might want to take a look at some other cars in this segment. I'll actually put some reviews up on the screen for you to go ahead and check out. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and I'd also like to extend a huge shout out and special thank you to Toyota dealership here. I'll put a link to their inventory below, and also make sure to leave a thumbs up and comment down below. Thank you again for watching.